everyone, today I wanted to make a video about Bookvault. Now, I don't know about you, but I have heard so much about this company over the last couple of years. It feels like they've just got super popular and I've heard so many good things. However, I haven't needed to investigate their service, basically because the publishing routes that I use work for me, and so I haven't needed to look at an alternative. If you're new to this channel, my adult books I publish using print on demand, so that's via Ingram Spark and KDP. My children's books I have bulk offset, litho printed, and then I distribute those myself. I'm aware I'm sitting under a skylight thing. Apologies if the lighting is odd. Anyway, so recently, as I talked about in my last video, I did end up looking into Bookvault services, which is why I want to talk about this today. In a nutshell, if you haven't seen my last video, I had some printing issues with my the printer I use for the bulk printing, and I needed some books for the book launch, and one of my options that I kind of set up was using Bookvault. So I uploaded my book, I ordered a proof, and then I had that ready in case I needed to use them to print a short print run. Obviously, as a print-on-demand service, their per unit prices are a bit higher. So, however, it would have served the purpose in me having some books when I needed them. Didn't end up doing that. However, I did order a proof, investigate their services, and so I would like to talk in this video, as I've done previously where I've compared Ingram Spark and KDP and offset printing. I wanted to talk a little bit about what I found that Bookvault offer, because I know there'll be lots of you thinking about your different options, so hopefully this video will be really helpful if you're deciding what route you would like to take. So what I'm going to do in this video is show you how the quality compares with bulk printing and also with Ingram Spark. I don't have a KDP book that would be helpful in this comparison, but I'll explain that when I get to it. I'm also going to talk a little bit about how Bookvault work and the service that they offer and how that compares with Ingram Spark and KDP. So that's what you can expect. Let's start off with looking at the quality. So I have a proof here. So this is my recent book, Captivating Kelp Forests. So this is a Bookvault proof. I'm going to show you as best as I can how this compares with other books. So the first thing to say is that Bookvault have lots and lots of options for trim size. You can just put in the trim size that you want. That was really helpful for me because this book is an unusual size, and other print-on-demand services, Ingram Spark and KDP, wouldn't have had this size, and so therefore that wouldn't have helped me in this situation. But yes, you can choose a trim size. Particularly if you're thinking about landscape can be quite hard to come by, so there was that. The next thing to talk about is the quality. So what I've gone for here is a gloss cover, and then the inside is silk. So you've got that slight sheen to it. Can you see that in the light? And I forget exactly what GSM I went for. I think it was around about 150, and I typically use 170. And the cover I think is 250, and I usually use 300. Honestly, it's unnoticeable. I believe that's right. If it's not, I'll put a note. I think that's right. So as you can see, it's a pretty good quality. It's got a nice finish to it. You know, if I bought that in a shop, I would think that's comparable with other children's books. It feels like a nice, good quality paper stock, and I know I'm talking to people who understand these things. It's a quality book, it's well made. I'm going to compare that, first of all, with my bulk printed book. So I'll grab one of those proofs. This is, as I say, I think the paper stock is ever so slightly thicker, but you can see I've got gloss, I've got silk. I can feel that this is ever so slightly sturdier, but honestly, you would not notice unless it was pointed out to you. To give you an idea, if you look at how floppy these books are, so this one's Bookvault, and this one is the offset printed. you know, they, it looks on camera like one's bigger than the other. It's because one's further away than the other. They are very comparable. So you can see that my offset printed one is a little sturdier. Honestly, it's very, very similar. Look at the thickness of those books as well. I have never seen a print-on-demand book that can come up in terms of the quality for a children's book. As I said before, I use print-on-demand for my adults' books. I am very impressed with this in respect to being able to use it for a children's book, and that is a perfectly good quality book. Now what I'm going to show you is how it compares with Ingram Spark. Now I haven't used Ingram Spark for this title, but I did for a previous one. Now this is a few years old, and I am aware that Ingram Spark now offer a higher, what's the word? They have like a premium ink that's higher than what I used, and they also do offer, I think, some slightly more premium papers that you can try. So this is the older one before they introduced those changes last year. I haven't bought a book, a children's book through them, and I haven't used those options. So investigate that. And anyone who has bought those, I would love you to comment below on what your experience is. So this is premium ink on the highest paper stock that they offered at the time, but it isn't much higher now, but it is slightly better. So just, you know, for argument's sake. So this is my old book, Lily the Limpet Gets Lost, and this is the first edition. You can tell because the title is a different font to now. So in this example, it's got a gloss cover. It feels very, very flimsy. I can't remember what the GSM is. The inside is matte. There is, as far as I know, no other option. You can't get silk or gloss pages. Again, sometimes these things change, so do always check. And also, as I make this video now, things may change down the line. But at the time, that's matte paper. To me, this paper feels like an adult's book paper, you know, a novel. It's not that thick quality that you see in children's books. It's just very, very thin. The colours are fine. I'd say I'm happy enough. It's not quite as vibrant. If I compare, let's find the same page on this one. Is that the same page? No, it isn't. This is where this is going to be difficult. There we go, that's the same one. So the Ingram Spark one is here, the offset one is at the top. Try and get them both on camera. I think the colour looks very similar, but if I show you in any kind of light, can you see the sheen on the top one? Totally matte on the bottom. To give you a sense of how much thinner the paper stock is, this is Ingram Spark, and this is the offset printed. Try and hold them one on top of the other. Can you see that? And I don't know how well you'll be able to see the thickness. I'll try and show you. Tricky to do. Can you see that bottom book is much, much thinner? I would say almost half the thickness. So that's Ingram Spark. As I say, I know they've made some changes, but I don't think that they are up to what Bookvault can do. You also only have set sizes that you can do, and you're limited on the finish that you can have. So just to give you an idea of how those compare. So I would say, in my opinion, Bookvault, in terms of the colour, the quality of the paper, the fact that you can choose whatever trim options and whatever finish options you want, very comparable to offset printing. So that's in terms of comparing the quality. So thinking about the service that they offer, where to start? So in terms of my bulk printed books, obviously I am distributing those myself. I have to buy those at a very high quantity. I buy them in 1,000 in order to make sure that my production costs are very, very low. And then that means that when I'm adding on the things that I have to pay when I distribute those, so you know, when a shop buys them, they keep a portion of the money. Through Amazon, they keep most of the money. You know, whatever avenues I'm using, that what that book cost me is as low as I possibly can. So then I'm getting the benefits I'm making the money at the end of it. So that's how that works. But obviously, in terms of the admin, for me, I am the one making that available to distributors. I'm the one sending books from this house, and I have to store those books. And I appreciate for a lot of people, you may not have the space to store them. And I know that I'm lucky in being able to do that. But yeah, you may not have that space. And so obviously that makes it a whole lot more appealing to use a print-on-demand service. I've talked before about the fact that I started off with using print-on-demand because I really didn't have the space. When I looked at the quality, and I looked at predominantly the quality, to be honest, and we figured out that we could make some space to store the books, that's when I moved to having them printed. So it was mainly a quality thing. I do like print-on-demand services, I have to say. So that's how that works. But in terms of comparing something like Ingram Spark with Bookvault, there are some differences in terms of what they offer. So in terms of the royalty that you receive, now it is going to vary depending on the options that you choose. So your best thing is to go on their price calculators. For Bookvault, that's you ask for a quote. And I would suggest putting all that information in and actually comparing how it works. So them being print-on-demand services, they will ship that book on your behalf, and you don't get involved like I do in terms of sending the books and all that stuff. So the way that it works through Ingram Spark, I'll come on to KDP in a moment, is that you set your list price. You also set your retailer discount. So from whatever your list price is, say it's £10, the printing costs are taken off of that. And that will vary depending on the choices that you make. The retailer discount will be taken off of that, and then you're left with some money, essentially, in a nutshell. So as I say, depending on what options you're going for, definitely put that through their calculator and see what you would be left with in terms of a royalty. You have the option of changing that retailer discount. So, if you set it higher, it might be more appealing to bookstores, but obviously that affects your royalty rate. So have a look into the minutiae of that, and obviously all of that is variable. That's why I'm not going into specifics, depending on what you've chosen as your print options, what you've set as your retailer discount. KDP, very, very similar, except that they have a fixed retailer discount. It's fixed at, I think, 40%, through Amazon, if I've got that right. And then their expanded distribution is enforced, it's around 60% discount. So you're keeping 40% of the price less the shipping and the production and all of that. So their expanded distribution is different. But through Amazon, then you get a more favourable situation. So again, have a look at their calculators. Again, it will depend on the options that you have chosen. So that's how those guys work. With Bookvault, I've taken a screenshot of it so that I can make sure I'm saying the right thing. So first of all, there is a title setup fee. Although if you're a member of Ally, the Alliance of Independent Authors, or is it whatever it is, if you're a member of Ally, then you can get that for free. And they also have monthly sort of subscription model things where you can pay a monthly fee and you get free title setups and get other benefits. So if you're somebody that does loads of books, that might be favourable. It wouldn't be for me, but it may be for other people. So you pay £19.95 for your title setup, and then the way their pricing works, so from your total price you pay a 5% distribution fee, 30% retail fee, and then you have the production costs. So it's very, very similar. So again, get your quotes, do your calculators and see how they compare. They are going to be comparable, so in terms of the way that the pricing works, but Bookvault do have that title set up. Bookvault have their own bookshop, the Great British Bookshop. Through them, it is a 5% retailer fee. So that's obviously slightly different, and you can make more profit if you're selling through that avenue. But what they have that's an extra thing that the other print-on-demand services don't offer is that they can merge with your website. So for me, those books, if you buy something from my website, I have stock of all of my titles and I will post that from my house. But if you don't want to handle any of that, if you don't even want to have like for example, Milk and self-publishing, I've probably got 10 copies of each, and I'll just order a few more when I run out. I don't hold masses of stock. But if you don't want to have any, and you don't want to handle it, you don't want to be sending stuff out, you don't have a post office near you, however it might be, you can merge Bookvault with your website. So you can do it via Shopify, you can do it via Wix. There's a whole thing on their website where you can have a look at the different services, think WooCommerce, and they will merge it. So if somebody buys through your website, that can go via Bookvault. So it's going to be more expensive than what I can do from my house, but you know, it's not all about money always, is it? It's very convenient. So you can do that, which is very, very helpful. You can also order a whole load of books like I was going to without enabling distribution at all. Now you can do that with Ingram Spark as well. Amazon, KDP, sorry, if it's not enabled for distribution, you get a band around the book that says not for resale. So helpful for that option like me, where I'm still going to do the bulk printing, but I might have Bookvault as an option so that for whatever reason I can't get books quickly enough through my printer, I could order a little mini run from Bookvault. That's very, very handy to have there. And again, they have that quality that I'm looking for. So another thing that you can do is with Bookvault, there are lots and lots of options. So some of the things they offer, you can have a few colour pages in your book. So maybe you're writing middle grade or adult fiction or non-fiction, and you want to have some colour plates in the book. With Ingram Spark and with KDP, the whole book would have to be colour. So you're paying that premium rate because the whole book is printed as if it was colour. With Bookvault, you can choose a little proportion of that book that can just be printed in colour. So if you want photographs or pictures or whatever, you can do that, which is going to really, really help financially. If you were doing an adult length novel and you wanted like 3 pictures in it, but you have to pay premium colour for 300 pages, that's not going to work out. So that's something they offer. And they also, I believe, I don't know if they've rolled it out, I can't remember whether it's already available or going to be available, that they can do things like foiling and like lamination, like spot lamination and things like that. So you have a lot more sort of pretty options and premium options. So you can produce a book that has those premium things that you get through using an offset printer, where you can say, right, I want this and I want this specifically, and they print something very, bespoke, I guess. You actually have access to that through Bookvault. So I think that's very, very exciting. So to give an overview of how these things compare, if you are distributing via retailers, the way that the pricing works, very, very similar. Just look at the individual specifics. In terms of quality, Bookvault is comparable to having your books offset printed, and you have similar options in terms of trim size, finish, the thickness of your papers, the finish of your papers, all that kind of thing. So very good quality. You have the option to order your own books without the book even being enabled for distribution. So you can order author copies. You can always order author copies through any service, but as I say, you can do that without having the book enabled for distribution. You can do that with Ingram Spark. You can't do that with KDP. As far as I know anyway, these things do change, but this is as far as I know. And always do check the things that I say because they change. And finally, the fact that unlike other print-on-demand companies, you can use Bookvault along with your own website and actually kind of get those things working together so that you don't have to distribute the books even through direct sales. You can do direct sales via Bookvault. And really, a lot of indie authors are really moving towards direct sales and worrying a lot less about being in all the charts and things, and working more on being, that really personal artisan kind of approach, and selling direct through their own sort of ecosystem, as it were. And you can do that using Bookvault without touching a book. So that can be really, really helpful depending on your situation. So I hope that was helpful. I definitely would use Bookvault. Next time I release an adult's book, I'm going to have a look and see if it compares to what I already use with Ingram Spark and KDP, look at the pricing, happy enough with the services I use. However, always worth investigating an alternative. I will definitely consider setting up titles with Bookvault as an emergency backup supplier of books in case I have any printing issues again in the future. And what else was I going to say? I was going to say, oh yes, that I would use them. I'm considering using them for this book, Lily the Limpet. I'm running out of copies. I haven't got many from my last print run. And the way that this book works financially compared to the others, so I do a royalty share with the illustrator, and the way that we work it is essentially I just give her half of the profits. Now, if I order another 1,000 of these, it's going to be a little while before I can give her any money. However, I'm considering using Bookvault, which means that I don't have that big outlay that would affect how I work with her. Possibly. Haven't decided for sure, and I'm going to discuss with her what option she would like, because we're related. We just work super chill in that way. So I definitely would consider it. And if I didn't have the space to store the books, absolutely would consider it. And I tell you what, when I moved from this book, this Ingram Spark printed one, and I looked at offset printing, and that was a really big change in my business, and it was scary, and I did not have the money to do it. I did a Kickstarter to enable me to do that with Milk and Cookies, and then I ordered these as well. It was a whole big scary change, having to figure out the storage of books, distribution of books, and all of that. I promise you now, had I have known about Bookvault and had I don't know what they were like back then, because I know they existed, but I certainly didn't hear anything about them. If I'd have had that option, 100% I would have gone down that route instead of the bulk printing route, because I was a print on demand girl. Would have worked really well for me. So yes, definitely look into them. And I hope that that's been helpful in thinking about the different options. Always worth looking at the specifics for you. It's going to be different for you and your book than it is for me. Sorry, my battery died just as I was finishing up, so apologies if any of this has changed. As I was saying, I hope that if what you were looking for was an overview from somebody who's used these services, I hope that was helpful. As always, do check the peculiarities. These things do change, but from my experience, that's how things weigh up. I'll see you all soon for another video. Let me know if there are any indie author writing, publishing type videos that you would like. I've got a huge playlist of stuff, but if there's anything you're looking for, let me know, and I'm always pleased to try and make videos that are helpful. But yeah, I hope you have a lovely week. I'll see you all for another video next week, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe. Take care.